Here we go. Okay. Welcome to another edition of Pulp Nonfiction on Pure Effects. Today, I'm excited to have a fellow endodontist with me. I'm in the top left-hand corner of North America, and he's close to the bottom right-hand corner of North America, but we're connected via Zoom. It's Dr. Rico Short. You got your dental degree in 1999 from the Medical School of Georgia, and then worked for a couple years, got your endo degree from Nova Southeastern in Florida, came back, worked as an associate for a couple years, and then broke out on your own and opened up your own practice. And your bio is quite interesting. And then what you've done with your degree is one thing to have a degree, but I don't think there's many endodontists who do as much as you do. You're in a lot of dental journals and all that, and I see all the stuff you do on LinkedIn, and people say I do a lot, and I just think I fall short of short. So welcome.
Well, hey, thanks for
yourself. Yeah.
hey, thanks for having me. I know it was kind of difficult, kind of trying to get me here, but I'm here. And just to be honest with you, I saw your invite and I said, hey, let me check this guy out, make sure he's legit. And I checked you out, and I'm like, yeah, I can spend 30 minutes with him as well. So yeah, I finished dental school in '99, and I went back to work with my mentor, who was a general dentist, and I had no thoughts about going back to school. I was done. I mean, after dental school, I was done. And I had some challenges in dental school, being the only African-American male in my class, going to dental school in the South. I encountered a lot of racial tension, and I had to do a lot of things twice just to get accepted marks. And as you can see in the media today, a lot hasn't changed. That, we really have to, look out for our fellow brothers and sisters, no matter what color they are or race or what have you, that we all are equal in God's eyes. And so because of that, I was jaded about school. I was done. I'm like, I'm going to be a dentist, and I'm not going back to school to get underneath the thumb of some crazy professor that's really torturing me just to get a degree that I'm paying for. So I ended up working with my mentor, and I did general dentistry for 2 years. Things started getting kind of rocky. And I visited one of my buddies who was in the first graduating class at Nova Southeastern in endodontics. And he was like, hey, man, come to Fort Lauderdale. Just take a break. I was like, cool, I need a break. I'm 25 years old. I need to take a break, go to the beach, South Beach, and hang out. Well, he tricked me. When I got off the plane, he was just like, hey, can you come assist me doing a root canal at a Microscope? Now, this is 1999 to 2000. And I'm like, what? A Microscope doing a root canal? So anyway, I said, all right, I'll be there as soon as I come off the beach from South Beach. He's like, no, we have to come and work on the patient first, and then we'll get a chance to go. So I went there and I assisted him. I said, oh, this is pretty cool. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I was doing root canals as a general dentist without even loops. I just had glasses. That's all I had. And I thought I was doing a pretty good job. Hindsight, it was not a great job, but I thought I was doing a good job. I mean, you come out of dental school, you do 3 root canals, you graduate, and then you consider yourself close as equivalent to an endodontist, and in your mind, that's what you think. So so I hung out with him, and the program director came by and said, who is this guy? And he's like, oh yeah, this is Dr. Short. He wants to be an endodontist. He took time from his practice to come to South Florida and spend a week just to learn about endo. And I'm looking like, dude, no, I want to go and see the chicks on South Beach, man. That was it. And he was just like, just go with it. So I went with it. We had lit review that night, and they were asking a question about antibiotics, and they asked about clindamycin. And this group of residents, they were older dentists. They had already been out 5 to 10 years, and I was fresh out of dental school, so I knew all the stuff about antibiotics, and they couldn't answer the question. So I raised my hand and answered the question about clindamycin having a black box warning, and you have to be careful because of C. diff and all this. And he's like, oh my God, this guy is really on top of it. You got to think about being an endodontist. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm just trying to hurry up the lit review so we can get to the beach. So we ended up finishing up. Things were well at the time I visited there, and I went back home, and things got really rocky. And my buddy called me. He said, "Hey man, you really should consider endodontics. I'm learning more about it, and you're gonna be glad you did." So I was like, "Okay, well, I'll apply, and we'll see what happens." So that was a Tuesday. He said, "Okay, the deadline is Friday." I'm like, "What?" I had to get all my stuff in. Recommendations got in Friday. Make a long story short, I got an interview. I went down, did my interview, and the guy remembered me. He's like, "Yeah, I remember you." The interview went great. 3 weeks later, I got back. I'm like, "Yeah, I nailed this thing." Even though I really don't want to be an endodontist, but it's better than this hellhole I'm in now. Let me just get out of here. And I got a letter, and it said, "Thank you for applying. You did not get in. Try again next year." And I'm like, "Okay, well, oh well." It's not like I really, really, really want to be an endodontist. This was just kind of a way out. I thought it was interesting. And then about a week later, I got a phone call at the office, and they were like, "Hey, you know what? It's something special about you that I liked, and we want to offer you a position. And normally we only accept 4 residents, but we want you to be the 5th one." And I'm like, "What?" And so I'm turning over tables, flipping out. I'm like, "Oh man, I got into school. Not only got into school, I got into Nova, which is in Fort Lauderdale, which is close to South Beach. My dream come true. I'm going to be learning about root canals and checking out the girls at the same time. I mean, what better way can a 25-year-old, enjoy their career?" So anyway, I went down there, and it was tough. I mean, endo was tough. I got a chance to, still hang out, but I really had to balance and focus. And I hated the first 6 months because it was learning about all these abstract articles and learning how to use the microscope, and I would get headaches. I'm like, "Man, this isn't for me." And I really thought about quitting. I'm like, "You know what? I don't think I can do this." And my buddy was saying, "You can do it, man. Just stick with it." And after I got about 8 to 10 months out of my belt, things started kind of molding and taking shape. Ended up getting some mentors, and they were kind of helping me along the way. And then that second year, things started going a whole lot better. And I'm like, "Okay, well, it's still taking me about 6 hours to do a molar root canal right under a microscope. I think I can hang in there." And when I got out, I was just like, man, I was so slow. I was still insecure. And then one of my mentors said, he said, "Look, don't beat yourself up. Once you finish your endo program, it takes about 3 to 5 years to get your feet underneath you where you can get comfortable. You've seen a lot of cases, you can build up some speed." And he was right. After I hit that 3 to 5 year mark, man, instead of taking me, 2 hours to do a molar root canal, I was able to do one in an hour, which was like, you going from, 6 hours to do one to an hour. I mean, that was pretty significant, and it actually looked pretty decent, And so then my program director, who was Dr. Dorn, who took the risk on me, he's like, "You know what? I want you to go on and become board certified." I'm like, "Is there any money in that?" He was like, "Oh," he said, "but it's pride, it's prestige. You never know. You may want to teach, you may want to write articles, and when you give lectures, it brings you more credibility." So I was like, "All right, I'll take this thing." So I did the written exam, and this is for the American Board of Endodontics. I did the written exam, studied my butt off, and did not pass the first time. And I'm like, "Man, this is crap. I studied my butt off, I didn't pass, so I'm not gonna do it again." And I called him. He's like, "You know what? Do it again." And I did it again. I passed it. I'm like, "Okay, got that done." So the second step, it took me about 2 years to get my cases together. And we had to submit cases and a case portfolio. I sent them together. I had other endodontists look at everything, look good, sent it in. "Hey, thank you for sending it in. It did not pass." I'm like, "Okay, what did I do wrong?" They say, "Well, we can't tell you what you did wrong. You just got to resubmit." I'm like, "What kind of sense? This is stupid. Like, what kind of sense does that make?" And I
Mhm.
wanted to quit again. And I called again Sam Dorn, and he was like, "Just submit it again." I'm like, "But these are great cases you've seen." He's like, "You know what? It may be something they didn't like in your wording, maybe something you didn't explain." So I redid it reluctantly, sent it in, and passed. I was like, "Okay, one more, one more thing. I got to do the orals." So I got ready for my orals, and I was in there, and I was ready, and the room was very intimidating. Um, and some of the questions they asked me off the top wasn't even about root canals. It was about child abuse. It was about getting bit by a tick causing Lyme disease. It was about spirochetes. It was about alcoholism and how do you control bleeding. And that knocked me off my, off my box, and I'm ready for endo questions, and they didn't come till late. By that time, my mind was so frazzled, I couldn't tell the difference between looking at a PA of tooth number 7 or tooth number 10. They all looked the same to me. And unfortunately, I did not pass. And, I was devastated. Like it felt like, somebody took my heart out and crushed it. Here it is. I worked hard and still did not pass. And I called my mentor. I said, man, I'm done. I said, this is torture for me. I said, here it is. I hear that, and in my group, we go by group, there was a couple of other endodontists whose, friends and parents were examiners, and they were, having a great time, joking and laughing. Hey, I was fishing, and I didn't know anybody. So, I felt like they had something out for me, whether they did or not, I don't know. And I was just like, you know what, I've been through too much. I'm not going to do it. And then, my mentor, um, Sam Dorn, said, look, I didn't pass it the first time, and I'm just going to admit it to you. And I don't know why. I don't know if they didn't like me, whatever. And then, now this is a guy that was a president of the AE,
Mhm.
written many articles. And he was like, just do it one more time. So I said, all right. And he said, just study your tail off and just know it. And I was like, all right. So I went in there the second time. I knew so much information. Like after about 10 minutes, they just stopped asking me questions. They were like, dude, you like ice cold on these things. And, and I did it. And I say all that to say that, when you're going through things in life, when things get tough, you
Mhm.
know, don't give up, man. And I know you want to give up sometimes. I mean, even, with everything that's going on in the world right now, just can't give up. And ended up becoming board certified. Ended up writing a bunch of articles published in the JOE, Dentistry Today. And till this day, Dentistry Today has been around almost 30 years, and I'm the only African American peer that's ever made the cover of Dentistry Today. So that was a very high achievement. And and doing many cases, and you probably see my short case of today. I've probably published over 1,000 of those. That's all around the world. And I realize that everybody don't get the same training in dentistry and endodontics. So I wanted to be able to kind of give back in a light way to show people how we're doing modern things. And if you don't have the modern equipment, some people don't have all the technology we have, like cone beam CT, and can afford nickel titanium files and things like that. In fact, someone sent me a text from South America, but Venezuela, and they just asked, can they have my used rotary files, because they can't even get any, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta do something. So I say all that to say, we are very, very blessed to be in a profession of endodontics. If you are in a area that you can practice, high level endodontics, and you have all the technology and the skills, I just want to encourage you to reach back and help some other people that are around the world who don't have access to those things. Um, so I just want to just say that in the beginning,
Mhm.
so that can be the foundation of our discussion today, Joel.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a very very good point. And I remember, yeah, I went to an endo course, and there was a guy from El Salvador, and I can't remember what he got paid for molar endo, but you wouldn't have been able to get many rotary files for it. I was, what? Like,
Exactly.
yeah, you got to recalibrate yourself. And an interesting thing is, one endodontist was saying to me, because I do a hands-on course, so we have a microscope and all that. One endodontist said to me, you might want to consider doing an endo course without a microscope, because uh, you got to play to your audience, and a lot of journalists are not going to have a microscope, and so what, and that's just the way it is, right? And endo, we love the microscope, and we embrace it, use it all the time. But it's like, well, look, it's just not for them, and they want a course and improve their endo. And yes, for other people in the other parts of the world too, that's certainly worth considering, because we get this mindset of, well, you got to do the best, you got to do the best, you got to do the best, but you got to do the best with what you got.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's a humbling experience, because I think I might have been at maybe that same lecture, something similar, maybe AE, and and I go around, I talk to some of these endodontists around the world, and even parts of Africa, and things like that. And man, they're doing the best they can with what they have. But guess what? It still works.
Yeah.
Man, some bleach, some hand files, man, it still can get you there. Some gutta percha, you still can get a successful outcome. But
Yeah.
what we've done, you know, like a lot of other companies have done, or industries, you know, you kind of get in bed with all these corporations and they kind of push the leaders to say, you got to have this, you got to have this, you know. And I was telling somebody, I wrote a viewpoint article in Dentistry Today. I got a lot of hate mail by like 3 years ago about my viewpoint on CBCT, because they were trying to push that as a standard of care. And I'm like, man, you got people around, you know, not just around the world, around the United States, they can't afford that. They
Yeah.
cannot afford a cone beam. I mean, they're still dipping with plain film, man. And I'm not talking about in some remote part. I'm talking about right here in the United States,
Yeah.
you know. So, you know, and we haven't even, you know, standardized, you know, sodium hypochlorite as a standard of care for irrigation. It's like, come on now. I mean, and it's been around, what, since 1914, Dakin solution? Like, really? You know, so.
Big bleach doesn't have the power.
Right, exactly. And, you know, it's so I like to be kind of the person in the middle where I can kind of reach from both sides and kind of find that middle ground. Um, you know, because I think, and then on top of that too, Joel, you got to realize these dental students, and I don't know how it is there in Canada, but when you go to undergrad, dental school, and become an endodontist, man, your student loans are probably about around $600,000 already. This is before you even did a root canal, before you open a practice, anything. And then you're going to say, oh yeah, by the way, you need to buy this cone beam. That's another 100 grand. You got to buy this and buy that. And it's like, man, you know, you're going to be working your whole life, man, to try to get out of debt just to break even, you know. And again, if that's what you want to do and you enjoy that and you want to get into that, that's fine. But trying to coerce people and saying you got to have this or else you're not a good dentist or a good endodontist, I think it's just, you know, it's just not fair.
Yeah.
But, you know, you won't really hear this come out of the quote unquote proverbial pulpit of of organized dentistry, you know, because I understand that these companies are putting millions of dollars into their endowment, millions of dollars of what they're doing, and they want to push their agenda, you know. I'm actually on the corporate relations committee for the AE, and I just stand up for some of the stuff that I feel is I don't want to say unethical, but it's not fair, you know. You know, and they do listen to some of the things that they have to say, but at the same time, I understand that, you know, they have to follow where the funds go. You know, I get it. You know,
Yeah.
so you know, so that's why, you know, I have a platform, and I've just created my own platform via social media that I can really tell the truth to other dentists, other endodontists, what's out there, what do you have to have versus what you don't have to have. And then they can at least have some other information to weigh it against the status quo.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if you had to pick one instrument or device that's kind of like your favorite, for me, it's the microscope. I just, you know, I'd work without an apex locator, but not the microscope. But what would be kind of your thing?
I would say, unless it's a number 8 with one canal, I would say it's a microscope, because I mean, you know, like you get into some of those, you know, upper molars and second molars, and especially with retreatment case, we know the number one reason for retreatments to fail is missed canals, and then it's inadequately cleaning and shaping. And if you can't see it, how are you going to get to it? You know, so I would say, I would agree, the microscope would probably be my one thing. And like you said, even if I didn't have an apex locator, I'd take some radiographs and, you know, and going by a certain type of feel, after you've been doing it, you know, for almost 20 years, like I have, you can kind of feel a little bit where, you know, I don't say you can feel, I won't go and stretch and say, oh, I can feel the physiological apex, but I feel an opening, you know, with the file, you know, and take the x-ray and see where you are.
No, absolutely. And by microscope, that's what we like. But yeah, it can mean higher power loops. It's illumination and magnification.
Right.
And so if you're a general dentist, don't say, well, those guys said it's microscope or nothing. It's, for us, microscope, and maybe for you, it's you know, really good loops and magnification.
Absolutely.
And illumination. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, because and I think what happens is sometimes, because I've seen general dentists, they got these great loops, but they don't have illumination, and it's like if you're looking at a dark corner, it's still a dark corner.
Yeah. And also too, you know, I mean, I teach a class on microscopic views as well, and you
Mhm.
know, and I tell people say, can you see all the way down to the apex? I'm like, if it's a corner, you can't. You know, light doesn't go around the corner, so I don't care what someone says. Oh yeah, well, I got this microscope, man, I can see all the way down to the apex on this curved lower molar. They're lying to you, you know. So you only can see where the light goes, and you know, and that's it. And most of the time, it'll get, you know, we know most root canal systems aren't straight, you know, they're curved.
Yeah,
So realistically, you know, the microscope, you know, can assist you in a lot, but you can't see all the way down to the apex unless it's a straight shot canal.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. It's a rare day you can see all the way down to the end, and if it's a curved canal, you don't want to be seeing red.
That's right. Yeah, you don't want to be seeing red. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So you do a hands-on course, do you?
Yeah, so we're working out actually before the pandemic thing. I was
Mhm.
working on a hands-on course with Edge Endo, who's partnered with me, and I'm independent. A lot of
Mhm.
people say, "Oh, yeah, you're the spokesperson for Edge Endo." No, I'm not. I'm an independent speaker, consultant about all products. I talk about Edge products. I talk about Brasseler, you
Mhm.
know, Dentsply. But Edge has been gracious enough. Anytime I want to do something with a group of dentists, they just step up to the plate and support it. So, um, you know, so they have some great products. So we were working on a hands-on course when this thing happened, and we had to kind of put it by the wayside, but also teach as well. I'm a volunteer teacher, professor. So I get dental students from the Medical College of Georgia School of Dentistry. They come to Atlanta where I am, and we work in an indigent clinic where patients don't have to pay. And I actually show them hands-on how to do root canals from start to finish.
Yeah.
So that gives me an opportunity to really, you know, not only just display my didactic skills, but my clinical skills as well. So
Yeah.
it's great to be able to give back like that.
No, absolutely. And you're in the spotlight a lot. And I think what happens is some people get an idea of, well, he never comes across barriers or obstacles. And your story about board certification, I mean, that's heartwarming. I mean, hurdle, smash, hurdle, smash, hurdle. And you maintain the faith, and that's good, and it carries on. But you've had recent, I mean, trials and tribulations. When we were chatting on the phone, I mean, do you want to speak to that a little bit? But that just blew me away.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, out and back last September, you
Mhm.
know, I was with my family and we decided to go on a fall break vacation to a water park. And I'm not a big adventure seeker. I'm kind of more boots on the ground. I don't really have to go up in the air. I think birds are the only ones that should be going in the air because they can fly, not humans. But that's just me. So anyway, I was going down a water slide and coming down the slide. I hydroplaned off the slide. And I was holding my nose because I thought I was gonna fall off the slide. Ended up crashing to the other part of the slide. So my right thumb went through my left eyeball and pretty much knocked it out.
Oh.
It was, they had to pick me up from ambulance, and it was very painful, very traumatic. And I was blind in that eye for a while, and I didn't have a, you know, I went to all these different ophthalmologists, and no one could really touch it. And I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to just, you know, fly to New York and try to find someone to work on my eye. But they wanted to wait till all the inflammation come down because like maybe there's a chance that it can come back. Well, all the inflammation came down after about a month, and I still couldn't see, you know, out my left eye, and I couldn't practice obviously. So so I didn't have an associate, so I was like, all right, you know, what am I gonna do, you know? And I kept my staff on because I'm like, hopefully, you know, God's grace, I'm just wake up and I'm gonna be able to see, you know, and go back. So after a month went by, that didn't happen, and then I seeked out a it was actually a pediatric ophthalmologist that specialized in these eye injuries, and I went to see him, and he was just like, well, it's pretty bad, but we can try to do a surgery on it and see if we can correct it. And
Mhm.
so I was like, all right, you know, and I went and did the surgery. um, he was able to correct the eye, and after um, healing, you know, it took oh, wow. In fact, it took like 5 months for it to heal. So here it is all this time. I'm losing income. I'm still paying my staff because I'm hoping I'll be able to get back.
Mm-hmm.
And it rolled around about 5 months and I just couldn't do it anymore. I'm like, I'm going to go bankrupt. I'm going to lose everything. So I actually put my office up for sale. And my advisors was like, you know what, you don't let your staff go because your office would be more valuable with the staff because they know how things go.
Mm-hmm.
So ended up had a buyer, and the buyer was ready to go, but he wanted to put me on a 20-mile restrictive covenant. So I ever got back, I couldn't even go within 20 miles. Well, that was even I would have to move my home and do everything. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to stay in faith and I'm just going to believe God is going to just take care of me and heal me through it. And I had a start date to start back on March the 1st. And I did some practicing and I'm like getting my hand-eye coordination back and my vision started coming back slowly but surely.
Mm-hmm.
And so while my vision and stuff was coming back, well, even before that, I was inspired to write a book. And this is my new book here. It's
Mm-hmm.
called In the Eye of a Storm, 45 Days of Turbulence and Peace. And it talked about me going through the process, me using my faith, me using, the things that I have already been through to help me get through this devastating eye injury. Because at the time, I didn't know how I was going to get through it. I didn't even know I was going to get through it. And I wanted to write the book in the middle of the storm because that's when most people need the help. It's not on the other side and they can tell you back, okay, this is how I did it. No, it's in the middle of it. And when you read the book, it's on Amazon. You'll be able to feel me going through it. I mean, you'll be able to feel me, dealing with the eye injury, dealing with, possibly losing my practice and losing my home and losing everything. And it's full of just faith-based stuff. It's full of just reality stuff. It's funny. I mean, I talk about some things that, that I have to find laughter in this midst of pain because the anxiety level was so high. I mean, there was times I woke up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, feel like I was going to have a heart attack because I never ever thought that I would have been in a situation like this with my family and something tragic to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have disability insurance and I did have some business overhead insurance, but the way it works is that those things don't even start paying out to like after like 120 days. And then they don't pay based on your lifestyle. So they pay based on kind of like, they'll keep you out of the poorhouse, but it won't keep you your lifestyle that you've worked so hard for. And so having to battle through that and getting, benefits, that was a whole nother battle in itself. And then starting back March, I said, I'm just going to see 2 patients a day. And I started back on March the 2nd. And then by the time March the 10th rolled around, that's when the pandemic hit. That's when the COVID thing hit. So I was like, you know what? There's no reverse gear for me. I already tore the reverse gear out of my car. I mean, it's just forward, man. There's no neutral. I've already, I'm like, hey, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down with the coronavirus, man. And while everybody else was afraid, I'm like, man, I'm in here. So I stayed in and I was getting PPE stuff from Amazon, from stuff. Some of the stuff probably wasn't even legitimized at the time when all this stuff was happening. I was like, I'm just going to use it and be the best I can. And fortunately, my staff, because I paid them through the whole time, they were very loyal to me. They was like, you know what? You took care of us for 6 months. I mean, we did not see a patient. And I'm not going to turn my back on you. We're going to stay. And my staff stayed and we worked through it. And every time we got an update, we implemented it. So while everybody else was afraid of COVID-19, we were already in the middle of it. We were already prepared. We were already taking care of patients. And they were so thankful because they did not want to go to the urgent care. They didn't want to go to the hospital, get more exposed. A lot of the general dentists was thankful. And they referred a lot of patients to me. And they also asked me my advice on how to deal with it. What kind of PPE stuff you have? And so being in the middle of that storm, maybe I need to write a book on how to get through the coronavirus as a dentist. I don't know, because I didn't, there was no reverse gear, and we've been in it ever since, and we continue to stay full throttle in it. So now that was March, and now we're tiptoeing in June. I've ramped up my schedule a little bit, not a lot. Instead of seeing 2 people a day, we're seeing between 4 to 5, because we want to still practice the social distancing and do all those things that make our patients and our staff comfortable. And so we just been, still treading through the waters.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that's remarkable. I mean, you just start to get up to speed, you're ready to roll, and the darn coronavirus hits.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just gives you a perspective, other people's perspective, because other people were, that whole 6 months were working in billing.
So this is the perspective, Joe. I talked to a dentist yesterday, and
Uh,
he was giving me his gripes. It's like, oh my God, and I haven't worked for a month and had to pay my man. You know how much money I lost, man? I've probably lost $100,000. I'm like, all right, I haven't worked for 6 months, dude. Like, all right, I multiply that by 6, and I still got to deal with the coronavirus. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even think about it." And I said, "No, I just want to try to help you put some things in perspective, dude. A month, and you can still trickle in and do some dentistry. Heck, you can at least do hygiene or something. You can make some money. For us as endodontists, we even doing a root canal, or we're not, or we're eating air sandwiches. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's so we don't have many other options as being endodontists. You either do the root canal, or you just sitting around twiddling your thumb. So when I said that to him, he was like, "Oh man, that." He said, "Man, you 6 months." I was like, "Yeah," and so that actually encouraged him. He's like, "All right, let me be quiet. It's not so bad. Some other people was, what you went through and what you're still going through is a lot worse than, what I've had to deal with this past month or two." So
well, and I imagine too, you get recalibrated working at that Indian clinic, because I mean, you see people whose lives are, infinitely harder, and he's like, okay, you know what? I don't need the new car this year, or
yes,
whatever it may be. It's like it's not that big of a deal, and yeah, it feels hard because we work hard to get what we want, journalists and all of us, and then you get a little bit of that taken away, but it's like, well, you still have a lot.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and even in dentistry, I mean, even with all this COVID stuff going on, I mean, there's still a need. I mean, we still can make income and stuff. I mean, there's some people that have lost everything. I mean, some of these industries won't ever come back. I hate to say it. And they have to, some of these people, they have families and they have to recreate everything all over again. And they don't even know how to even start.
Yeah,
And they don't have skills like we have that are always going to be needed on some level. And it should make our heart goes out to those people, blue collar workers, and other people like that who we need in our society in all levels, from the from the sanitation worker, to teachers, to automotive mechanics and things like that. So I think, if we can, it's our duty to reach out and do what we can to help them, whether it's contributing to some kind of fund, or doing some kind of free dentistry, something. All of us can play a part around the world
yeah,
to lighten the load, and to help people get back on track. And the reality of it is this, man: if people, I can say in the United States, if they're losing their insurance, they're not going to be up in the dental office. Like, that's not going to be a priority for them, especially not getting a root canal, because they always can extract the tooth.
yeah.
And so it can and will affect us. We're not oblivious to what's going on. I mean, so I hope that, we're seeing a lot more kindness happening, and that can, lighten the load. And we're going to get through this, as a country, as a world together. And this is going to show us, to me, how important we are, and how really integrally we are all linked. We all are linked together as human beings, as mankind, and we all really want the same thing. We want safety, we want peace, we want love, we want family, we want community.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely, and that speaks to when you're treating a patient. You can have the most difficult situation with a patient. They feel you're tuned into them and you're listening to them and treat them as a human being. Then all the other stuff is kind of peripheral. But that's like what you're saying is you want to treat people with respect and have that understanding, because I'm sure as an endodontist, sometimes we're a bit of the garbage can. You had this patient who's been kind of abused and beat up, and then they come to you and
Yeah.
they're kind of haggard and they've lost faith in
Like,
humankind.
yeah, like what are you gonna do differently than another guy? Yeah,
Yeah,
what are,
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and
Or the great selling point they do is, you've got a microscope. Okay, you know what? If my guy had a microscope, I would be with him.
right, exactly. And the other thing is this: how many patients have ever complained to you that you were a millimeter short from the apex? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, they don't know, man. They just want to know, hey, well, you're nice to me. Did you hurt me? And are you accessible if I have issues?
No,
So
it's kind of funny because you go in, you do the exam, you do all that, you give them the estimate, they grumble a little bit about the price, and then you start doing their work, and they're like, "Well, is it done? Is it done?" You're like, "You'd really like the 15-minute endo?"
yeah,
Yeah.
I had a guy say that last week. He was like, $800 is like, that's, you only spent like 30 minutes. I said, well, technically I spent about 20 years, I said, you just on the other side of the 20 years. But I can, if you want me to, I can work on you for 8 more hours if you want. I feel like you got your money's worth. And he was just like, oh, no, I'm just saying. I'm like, so it doesn't, it doesn't happen overnight. And you are, paying for a very high level, high quality service that
Mhm.
you just can't go anywhere to get. You just
Yeah.
can't pull up to anywhere and just get this kind of service that's going to actually save a body part. And that's the other thing, is like, if someone's working on your heart, would you rush them, or would you be like, oh man, I paid all this money to, get my heart transplant or whatever? No, you're going to be thankful. And so, and we as dentists, as endodontists, I mean, we're working on vital body parts as well. I remember a quote by Don Quixote. It said, you're like, one tooth is more precious than a diamond, and it is. I mean, so as we continue to educate patients, and that's another thing why I do social media and post
Mhm.
cases, is
Mhm.
to educate not only just the dentist and endodontists, but also the public on how
Mhm.
important dentistry is, how important you may have been able to keep your tooth is, and things like that. You know.
Yeah, no, when you graduated from endo, that was kind of when the whole implant endo, there was a lot of anxiety in endo. And I remember I went into endo in 2005, and some people were kind of making the noises. Well, that's yesterday's specialty, and it might not be a specialty anymore, because everyone was so rah about implants. You're like, did I do the right thing?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I remember, and it's funny because in 2005, the AAE was in Dallas, and
Mhm.
I showed up. No. It wasn't. It wasn't in 2005. I think it was in. It may have been in 2005, 2006, something like that. And I remember I showed up,
Yeah.
and I just saw Nobel Biocare everywhere. I'm like, what
Yeah.
is going on? Am I at the wrong? Did you go to that meeting?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, what is going on? I mean, I'm carrying a bag with Implant Nobel Biocare advertised. I'm like, hold on, this is something about this isn't quite right. And it really disturbed me. And that's when they were like, yeah, if you're not doing, I went to a course with Roger Levin, and he gave a course shortly after that. And he was like, as an endodontist, if you're not doing implants, you're going to be out of business in 3 years. I guarantee you. So you better learn how to do implants and sign up for my course. And I was like, okay, well, how much is your course? He was like, oh, it's only 30,000. That's the discount. I'm like, come on, man. And there were people signing up, and I know people that did it, and they said, they did learn some stuff. But for me, and I'm like, no, man, I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid. I believe people are going to still want to save their teeth right now. We have some, new technology, or not new technology. Implants has been around for a while, but kind
Mhm.
of like the buzz on it. And I said, okay, well, we're going to see. And now I'm hearing periodontists and I'm hearing oral surgeons now. They're going back the other way. There's like, man, save the tooth, because we know in 10 years these implants going to have all kinds of problems. We got to redo them, and there's so many other issues with them. Save your natural tooth, man. And so now we are seeing some of the good endodontists, some of the good oral surgeons, the conscientious ones, the ones that understands literature, saying, try to save the tooth. We're seeing people going back to crown lengthening,
Yeah.
which that was like, we're not doing crown lengthening, let's take it out and do an implant. And now they're doing that and being able to keep the natural tooth because you have less complications, you know, than than with implant long term. And we're seeing these studies come out. I don't know if you saw the study out of University of Buffalo a few years ago that said that.
Oh, our audio's playing tricks on you. Can you hear me? Oh, shoot, I can't hear you. Is that me? I'm hoping it's recording.
Yeah, it says
Oh yeah, okay, you're back on with me.
okay. Yeah,
I don't know what happened there. So yeah, the University of Buffalo said,
they did a study back
yeah,
a few years ago, and they linked um, implant failure, 4 times implant failure, to antidepressants. So, and we know in the United States, antidepressants are the second most common prescribed drug.
yeah,
And, from early as 12 years old on, to who knows how old you can be being on antidepressants. But, so we're seeing those kind of things, you know, create problems with implants.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, absolutely, and it kind of falls into that. Oh, just fix it with this, just fix it with this, and you're like, well, hang on a minute, gear it back. I know that's a great product and a great thing, but just because you have a wonderful hammer, not everything's a nail, and
right.
it is going to be a little bit grisly to try to save that tooth, but it's still savable and it's still a good thing, and it'll give you great performance. And one of the best quotes I've ever heard about implants is they're great to fill in edentulous spaces.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I haven't heard that one. And that's true. I mean, because the fact of the matter is, I'm just going to use myself for an example. About 6 months ago, or about 8 months ago, I was eating some Tic Tac, some hard candy with my kids, and
Mm-hmm.
I felt something. I was like, man, that kind of hurts a little bit. I thought I sprained a ligament, and that thing, it ramped up and it started hurting really bad. I'm like, let me swing to my office, and I didn't see anything on the PA or bite wing, and I did a cone beam, and I fractured, tooth number 2, and it had endo.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had to get the tooth taken out, and it was not fun. It was definitely pretty traumatic, because I didn't get put to sleep, and it broke in a million pieces, and it was just terrible. I had to end up going to an oral surgeon to get it, fixed. Um, and I'm gonna need an implant, and I'm looking forward to my implant. So, but I would much rather tell you, I would rather have kept my natural tooth all day, every day,
Yeah.
because even going through that root canal, the root canal. But
Yeah, well, some of the biggest advocates for saving the teeth are people who've had the failed implant. I have some people come in and they're like, you know what, unless it's stupid, save this tooth.
I thought implants don't fail, Joel. I thought implants last a lifetime and implants don't fail. That's what
Oh
I
yeah,
heard.
yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I made a mistake. I
Yeah,
must have been an endo dream of mine.
yeah, yeah. So they say the implant doesn't fail, the patient just failed to heal. That's it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
You
they pull the implant and say, "Hey, my implant still looks good," you know.
still in
But
one piece.
it's
Yeah.
still in one piece, man. So and again, I'm not, and I know we're not making light of implants. I mean, I think they are great if the natural tooth
Hmm.
can't be saved, and I think that we as endodontists and as dentists, we need to really emphasize retreatments as well as surgical endodontics, and a lot of times, as general dentists, they don't give that tooth a second chance, and unless it's fractured, or vertical root fractured, I think you should at least give it another chance, whether you
Hmm.
do a retreatment or surgery on it. And it can service you, or the patient, way more years to come than versus snatching it out, and throwing an implant in there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, changing course a little bit. There is chat about charging for PPE. What is your take on that?
Well, at first we came out the gate, we were like, no, we're not going to
Yeah.
charge for PPE. We're just going to, take it on the chin as another expense we got to take care of. And then I start seeing how much all that stuff was costing me. I'm like, all right, let's charge like $10. We was gonna charge like a patient 10 bucks for it. And then most patients was okay with it. And I had one patient, she kind of was like, well, why are you charging this? You know, and da 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 da. And it just kind of pulled on the heartstring for me. And I was just like, you know what? People are already having a hard enough time right now, losing jobs, getting wages cut and things like that. You know, for now, I'm just gonna just absorb the cost, you know. And so I kind of went back in reverse, and now we don't charge an extra fee for PPE. Now, again, if you want to charge it, I think it's valid. I think it's valid because we bought, you know, some of the stuff that we got. You know, we had to get the infrared thermometer, and we got these special air cleaning units and all the operatories in the front, and you know, HEPA certification stuff, and we got, you know, all the stuff that you got to put on, from the bonnets to from the N95 mask to the gown to the shoe stuff to all the hand steril, all this stuff, and it costs money. You know, I mean, it costs, and you know, but we just decided right now in this climate, you know, just to be more kind, if you will, we just decided that we just gonna, you know, as long as we can afford to absorb the cost, we're just not gonna pass it on to the patient, you know. Now I know that I did see and I read that there's some insurances that will cover PPE up to a certain amount, so that's something we are looking at. But as of right now, we just decided that we're just gonna, you know, just try to, you know, create a more lighter atmosphere, and I think that helps.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm kind of on that page too. And if you do charge for PP, you get someone say, "Can I opt out?" Well, no.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, you know what? Instead of me paying you the $10, I'm just not gonna get my root canal here, you know. And then it's
Yeah,
like, is it? You know, it's like, because that actually happened to me, you know, and because the patient don't know us. We don't have any rapport with them. They don't know our character or anything like that. You know, they don't even really want to be there because they think their general dentist should do everything, and they think
yeah,
their general dentist is doing a disservice by sending them somewhere else. It's inconvenience to them. It's costing them more money, you know. And then you say, yeah, by the way, you got to pay me 10 more bucks for the PPE stuff, you know. And you know, so it just, I think that in the atmosphere that I've experienced, I think it doesn't lend you more credibility to charge them an extra $10. You know what I mean? It's like can you imagine like buying a Rolls Royce, and then, you know, they're like, hey, you know, you owe us $10 just because the mats that are in there. And it's like, what?
yeah,
Like $10? Like, I already spent, you know, I spent $500,000 on this car. You gonna charge me $10 for the coffee?
yeah,
Like, come on, man.
yeah,
Like, I'm not even buying Rolls, and I'm just using that. I don't
yeah,
have a
yeah,
Rolls Royce,
yeah.
but I'm just saying, maybe one day. But um, but can you imagine that? You know, you go into like a Mercedes-Benz dealership or whatever, and you know, they charge you for a cup of coffee. You
Yeah,
know, and can they charge you for a cup of coffee? Sure, they can. But isn't it nicer when you want to get another car if they didn't charge you for it? You
yeah.
know, a cup of coffee. You know, those little things. So that's kind of where I am with the
Mhm.
PPE thing. But again, if that's what you want to do and you feel comfortable doing it, you feel like, hey, you know what, this is gonna affect my bottom line, then, you know, charge it. You know, you have
Mhm.
every right to,
Yeah.
whether it's $10, $25, whatever. But you know, you also, you know, in my opinion, want to, you know, try to create an atmosphere where you are trying to provide a service and not trying to get every penny or dime from the patient. You know.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. And as a referred based practice, you see patients from all different types of practices. And I see the patients coming from, you know, those practices where the patients get ground a little bit and grinded a little bit, and they're coming in there. So I
Yeah.
got that, I pay for that, I pay for that.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's okay, you don't need your A game here. This is
Right.
exam fee, not a lot of surprises, you know.
Right. Exactly.
and and
Exactly.
and if the patient's comfortable in the office, they're going to relax, and you have that trust. And you know, Mrs. Jones, you really do need that crown. Okay, I'm going to go for it. And if you're grinding them, then they're gonna have their guard up, all right? And do you really want to work in that environment where it's, you know, you're trying to outbox the other person, where it's like, this is just the way it is.
Yeah. And if it's that, you
Oh,
still there?
yeah, it blanked out for a second, so I think we missed that last bit. If you could go over that. Oh, what the heck? Zoom must be telling us something. You're gone again on me. I don't know what it.
Hello? I
Yeah,
think I
you're
lost.
back. You're back.
Okay.
Sorry
Okay.
about that. It's
It might be on my end. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be on my end. I don't know.
So sorry, I missed the last bit. You were chatting about there.
No, I was just saying that if the PPE is that important to the general dentist, and you know the charge for that, you can always build that in
Yeah.
to your crown fee or your, you know, whatever you're doing. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not necessarily bad if you have a fee for it, but you know, it's an interesting topic to bring up because there's definitely kind of two camps, and just like you, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to charge for it. But then I'm like you, I'm a consumer and I go to places and you go to some place and they're nickel and diming you, like, you know, the car dealership, every little thing, like, oh, do you want a seatbelt in that car? Like, yes,
Right.
please. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. You know.
Yeah. And speaking of this COVID virus and PP and all that, it is kind of interesting because there's a new boogeyman out there, right? And the anxious, scared people now are going to be so bug focused that it is kind of the new thing that we're going to have to deal with, these people's anxieties and there's people's theories on things, and that's going to be, I think, a challenge when dental offices get up and running, because you're going to have patients like, is that proper? Are you doing the proper thing? It's like, well, we never had before. You know, it's going to be interesting. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. You're back now.
Yeah. There we go. Sorry.
I missed part of you were saying about the bugs and people
Yeah.
anxieties.
I think it's a new bogeyman for the anxious patients, and I think for dentistry going forward, people are going to be, you know, dentists are going to have to tackle that, and the teams are going to have to tackle that, because you're going to have patients who are going to just come up with weird and wonderful theories about this is bad and
Right.
proper.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. We're gonna have to deal with the focal infection theory all over again. You know, in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a virus in my canal?
Right. 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 Exactly.
we
You know.
we had one friend of a friend of a friend. Her son was having a birthday party, so I said, "Oh, could you please mail a birthday card because we can't meet, but don't lick the envelope because you're going to spread the coronavirus." Like, okay.
Oh yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Like
There you
exactly.
go, sweetheart.
Yeah. Exactly. 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 You know.
Yeah. And then some of the things too you'll see out in public too is went to get my hair cut, and the guy in front of me had gloves on, and the lady, when they let the people in for the haircut, was like, "Okay, go wash your hands and put on your mask and sit down." "Oh, you got gloves? Go sit down right away." It's like these. I was like, "Where does he get these magic gloves that just kill bugs on contact?" I'm like, I gotta get myself a pair of those.
Hey, and they probably will sell.
Oh yeah.
You know, you put the gloves on, say, hey, these are antimicrobial, antiviral gloves. Anything you touch is gonna disintegrate, you know, everything, including corona.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, it's been absolutely wonderful talking with you. It's been really inspiring. I just thank you. I can't thank you enough for, you know, the truthfulness, the heart that you bring to it, you know, and I gotta say, I see all your posts on the social media and all the stuff you do, and I gotta say, kudos to you. I don't think there's a harder working guy in endo.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the opportunity, and also too, the other thing I didn't mention is my kids. It's funny because they always say, you know, nobody knows who you are, And I said, I tell you what, go ask Siri, who's the root canal specialist to the stars, and see what happens. And so they used to always say that, and it's like, sorry, I don't know that. So now you go and do it, and it'll pop my name up. And it was like, so you still no one special. And it doesn't matter who the celebrities I work on, they still keep me grounded and humble, which is good, you know. So, you know, we'll see somebody like Usher, and it's like, you know him? I'm like, yeah. You worked on him? Yeah. You hung out? Yeah. You know, but they're like, well, he's not Justin Bieber. You know what I mean? Can't win with him. I got 2 girls, so
Oh
you know.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
so you know, and I say that, and I'll leave you guys with this: is no matter what you do, just have passion behind it. And if you have passion behind whatever you do,
Mhm.
opportunities come knocking on your door, just like it did me. I mean, I started from nothing, and now having a global influence is amazing, and a blessing.
Yes. No, absolutely. Keep up the good work. Definitely take some time off. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, man.
Thank you. Well, you guys take care up there in Canada.
Okay.
All
And
right.
and you guys do the best. I know it's a bit of a mad time down there, but
Yeah,
we're all human beings.
absolutely. Well, have a blessed one. Thanks, Joel.
Oh, you're
All right.
most welcome. Thank you, man.